Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to quite an interesting video because this is me ranking all of the giants on my LEGO Railway. So over the years I have built a total of 10 giants. A giant is categorized as a massive multiplex locomotive. It has a lot of drive wheels. Normally it's about 4, given that quadruplex sort of thing that's been consistent, but with more newer locomotives like Sunset and the Fat Man, it's been kind of reduced in size, but they still qualify as giants. So this is an interesting video because there are some that I prefer to others, and a lot of people ask me which one do you favour above others. And it's just a nice little extra video I get to do as well, which is really cool, really fun. And in the build order, these were Emerald Champion, Greyhound, Big Red, Blue Guardian, Midnight Panther, Stevenson's Champion, Orange Bullet, White Medallion, Sunset, and Fat Man. So, you know, lucky for me, this is a top 10 sort of list. So I don't think I'll title it as that, but you get the idea. So it's like a top 10 giants of the Triton LEGO Railway, which is going to be really cool. So yeah, let's get into it. In this list video, I'm going to look at one version of each giant in particular. That was my favourite of all of the versions of the giants. And we're going to start out with the number 10 spot at White Medallion. This creation had the most design time and it all went wrong. I tried multiple design ideas and it was just ugly. It went from one of the largest trains on my railway to one of the smallest. And that train still exists. It's a 424 sort of vintage style locomotive. And the smaller train is, again, it's still here and it's really cool. But it's a shame that the giant didn't work. There was a lot of things I wanted to try with it because it was cab forward. It was different shapes and using all kinds of different shaped bricks. But again, yeah, it was just a real shame that it didn't work because I did spend a lot of time beforehand getting all the bricks, getting the design right, and it's just ugly. In the number 9 spot is Midnight Panther. During the summer of the quadruplex in 2017, this just happened. There's a lot of train builds that I do that kind of just happen. They're spur of the moment builds, and this is one of the earlier ones. So it showed up, it had its fun, and it's left. There was no plan for it to stay. There was no reason for it to really stay after that summer of the quadruplex era. It did stay for a little bit while after it got scrapped. It was turned into a 610 sort of German steam locomotive, or like a fictional build, but that was the main inspiration. Even then, that got turned into another locomotive, which is the BR-23 262. But even that got scrapped, which is something I'm not too fussed about because, like I said, it's had its fun, and so did I. At the number 8 spot is Sunset. When I was growing up in school and college, I didn't have too many friends, but that's something that a lot of people kind of get used to. Whilst you have your network of friends being absolutely massive, you don't really know everybody. You have your squad that you keep close with you, as I had one of those, but in time, you know, didn't really stay too connected to many people. But this locomotive honours a more recent friend who formerly went by Dr. Hyena, now known as Intelligence Creator. We have been talking for a very long time now, and he always came up with this idea of a massive hexaplex, and he wanted to call it Sunset. A red, orange, and yellow livery was the idea, and I was so inspired by it, and I thought, I'm going to give this a go myself. I thought this sounds like an interesting challenge. And despite this being number 8 on this top 10 list, in its own way, this is number 1. This combines a lot of old techniques that I've done in the past and introduced some new ones for me. So yeah, this is in honour of my good friend, and again, in its own right, this is number 1. At the number 7 spot, it is Stevenson's Champion. So do you remember the Stevenson's rocket train, you know, built in 1829, kind of set the bar for future steam locomotives? Yeah. I thought to myself, I wonder if a larger version of this can be made. I made a sort of bigger version on LEGO Digital Designer, and then turned it into a quadruplex. Did it work? Yes and no. Yes, because I built it, and in time it looks really good. This last version was version 7.1, and I really did like the look of that. And no, because it got scrapped. That is not a problem though, because Stevenson's Champion went on to become Sunset, and even then it is still just a fascinating model to look back on and, you know, see that I built that. It's so unique, it has so many things going on for it. You can definitely compare it to the original Stevenson's Rocket. But yeah, Stevenson's Champion is at number 7. At the number 6 spot, it is Blue Guardian. In the early days of having a blue steam locomotive on my railway, it was just its own special thing. When I started making my railway, I had my Emerald Knights turned into Emerald Champion. I had a red train, and because I had some blue parts left over, I thought, yeah, let's just go for a blue train as well, why not? So eventually it grew and grew and grew. In time it became the Blue Guardian. It was this weird looking thing. Version 4.0 was it 4.0? I think it was that, when it had like that massive funnel. But then it became streamlined and it became thicker, and when it became a quadruplex it was absolutely gorgeous. This had the most surprising amounts of upgrades, and especially as its first quadruplex form, it was absolutely gorgeous. It only sucks because I used smaller drive wheels, and I really wish I didn't. Here we are in the top half of this list. At number 5 is Fat Man. This is the only giant that I've made that is actually based on a real world locomotive. Well, kind of. It was Big Boy, and kind of still is Big Boy, but after a few aesthetic modifications along the top of the boiler and kind of on the sides, as well as putting TLR on the side of the tender, it became Fat Man. This was an interesting build because I really wanted to keep it as Big Boy, but I also wanted to turn it into the Fat Man with those personal modifications. Sadly, I didn't have the parts to build both. Well, I probably could build both, but there was no way I was going to do that. This is also another thing that kind of just happened. I mean, Big Boy was a thing I wanted to do. Fat Man was another spur-of-the-moment build. So, a real giant came to the railway, and then the Fat Man took over. Just a personal touch, really. At the number 4 spot is Orange Bullet. Now, this, for me, is the equivalent to a guilty pleasure TV show. I don't want to like this train as much as I do, but I really do love it. When I did Emerald Champion with XXL wheels, it became this super long locomotive at 170 studs long, and it was just massive. The double cab thing that I had going on, it was just incredible. The wheels were big enough to have that cab on the base unit, which was, you know, kind of unheard of, really. I mean, I'd never seen a train design like that before. So having to try that with the Orange Bullet worked just as well. There were a few things I was able to change, and the overall look, the size and the whole shape, and it was just so cool. I absolutely loved it. Sadly, I had to take that train apart to use those parts, mainly the grey parts, because the orange parts weren't really going to be used for anything else. And the wheels were another big problem. XXL wheels allows a much larger train to be built, but it was never smooth. It was never as good in terms of quality in comparison to other giants. So if this was a smoother sort of runner, it would definitely be in the top 3. Taking third place with the number 3 spot is the Greyhound. Oh, the Greyhound. This had the most hype built up around it. This was the second multiplex train that I built, the Emerald Champion obviously being the first one. And I still remember the hype video, or like the reveal video that I did when this first came out. The first video wasn't actually its review, it was the kind of teaser action video. So Emerald Champion was parked in a siding, and the Greyhound just zooms past it. It was really unique. I've never done anything like before, especially having to build a second multiplex engine. That was the real Kickstarter for giants appearing on my railway. There was so much hype. I mean, I did version 1.0, then I expanded it a little bit more, turning it into version 2.0, and after then, it just flopped. It's a real shame that I didn't do too much with it in its original kind of birth period. It did come back for a while as a cab forward, but the latest version now, as version 5.0, is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. It's using XXL wheels that actually work in a way that I'm happy to keep. And yeah, I mean, the Greyhound is back up to its full potential. It was designed to be the replacement for Emerald Champion, but sadly it's never going to be able to do that now. It is also a train that has that trifecta feeling, with Emerald Champion, Greyhound and Big Red being the first three giants that I've built. It could definitely hold its own against those other two, but sadly, with the history that I have of those three engines, the Greyhound is not as strong. Taking the silver medal at number 2, it is Big Red. On my own kind of personal list, this is number 1. But for the sakes of this video, it's not allowed to be number 1. Again, this is my personal favourite with the amount of modifications and the changes that I've made to this train. It has definitely grown on me, and it has the second most amount of modifications any of my giants have had. It is definitely one of the coolest looking trains I've ever built. I've put so much love and passion and time into this model as well. But compared to the Emerald Champion, which is the only train that can really rival this, it's just not good enough to claim that number 1 spot. Well, it is for me, but again, if I were to put this out there and say, yeah, Big Red's number 1, it's just not going to be right. It's just not going to work. It's been very wild, very fun to look back at all of those old videos where I had a small red tank engine on my railway, turning it into like a Challenger model, then into the Garrett. Yes, the Garrett was a thing. Check that out if you haven't already. But Big Red, it's just a massive tank of a train, but it's just not allowed to be number 1. And in the top spot at number 1, it is Emerald Champion. Of course. This is not allowed to be below the number 1 spot. This is the first big train that I've ever done anything with on my LEGO Railway. So many designs, so many different variations, all that constant growth. It has such a rich history, and all that interaction that I have had with it has made it a fan favourite with so many people. I've even gone back and forth between Emerald Champion and Big Red, saying, oh, this is my new favourite, this is my new favourite, simply because I've been changing it around and building with it again, which is really cool. But it just has to be number 1. It just has to be. One of the best versions of this train as well was when I did version 17.0 with the double cab thing and introducing the XXL wheels properly, turning it into that 170 stud long monster. It was just incredible. I love this train so much, I really do. This stands out as one of the best multiplex locomotives I've ever built, and definitely one of the best LEGO trains in the world. So there we go, that is my list of ranking the giants of the Triton LEGO Railway. Do you think some of these models should have been higher up on this list? Should these be lower down on the list? What did you put as number 1? What did you put as number 10? Do you think some of these giants were so shit they shouldn't be on the list in the first place? Let me know in the comment section below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all ever so much for watching. I love all the interaction I get, all those comments that I see on videos in regards to my LEGO trains. Not just the giants, but in general, when I see people saying, this looks really cool, I can't believe you've been able to pull this off. It's just inspiring, because people see this, they love it, and that wants me to continue building LEGO trains. I do believe that I'm not a good LEGO train builder. When compared to other people online, there are details that I'm missing out on, there are details that I am lacking, details that I can't pull off. But my build method is also really unique, and I still haven't seen anyone attempt anything like I've done. I've built nearly a dozen multiplex locomotives, and I can still say I'm the only one who's tried that. No one else has been able to pull that off except for me. I'm still waiting for the challenge. But until then, I can sit back in my chair and smile at the achievements that I've been able to make. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all ever so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next episode. Bye!